Good morning, it's April 8th, and just to my liberal friends. When I was growing up in the Pittsburgh area, it was predominantly a blue-collar town filled with union workers in the steel mills. It was heavily Democratic, and everyone was told the Republicans were the party of the rich man, and they didn't really care about the working man. Well, how things have changed over the years. Going back to my roots in Pennsylvania, you can see how the parties have changed. Donald Trump appealed to the working class and made them feel he was listening to them. He did not look down on them, and no matter how many times Joe Biden talks about growing up in Scranton, his party has basically abandoned the blue-collar workers. Pittsburgh has changed as well, and the steel mills are all gone. They've been replaced by white-collar workers in the medical and financial service industries. Philadelphia has long been viewed as a white-collar town with a significant number of minority voters. It has often been said that Pennsylvania is Pittsburgh and Philadelphia with Alabama in the middle. The middle of the state has moved significantly to the Republican Party, as most rural people want the government to be out of their life. They recoil at Biden's forgiving student debt because the majority of them did not go to college and did not borrow any money. They went to work out of high school, and many of them became well-paid tradesmen and small business owners. It's important to note that the voters have not really changed, but the two parties have changed. The Democrats have abandoned their working-class voters for college-educated elites who are congregated in the two major cities of Pennsylvania, and that can be said in most states around the country. These elites don't see themselves living in a small town. At the national offices of Washington, D.C., the Democratic Party, they're struggling to find a way to appeal to these voters. For so long, Democrats had them in their pocket, and now that seems to have changed. It did not happen all at once. Began slowly and became a strong movement to the right. What kept this movement hidden was these workers with deep ties to the Democratic Party from their parents and grandparents did not change their registration, but when it came time to enter the voting booth, they were no longer checking the box for Democrats. But even that's starting to change. Many of these working people began to move away from Democrats, and on some issues they clung to being a registered Democrat. But some of this can be attributed to the fact that in many of their local elections, only Democrats run, so the winner was determined in the primary. But over time, they also began to see that Democrats, especially at the national level, were imposing strident regulations and taxes that affected their community's prosperity and affected their own financial lives. Then came the Democrats wading deeply into social issues that bothered these people. They were not buying the race and gender agendas of the Democrats in Washington and coupled that with a wide-open border, and they began to think it was time to fully make the change. In Pennsylvania, this became a battleground when the governor implemented a new measure that allowed residents getting a driver's license renewal and any other form of ID card to opt into voter registration. Republicans in the state legislature complained originally, but they're beginning to see the folly of the government's plan. In the first month, this program, 3,194 registered as Democrats, 4,052 as independents, and a whopping 7,657 registered as Republicans. Basically, almost twice as many became affiliated with the Republican Party, and when you throw in independents, it shows a major weakening of the Democratic base in what has become somewhat of a purple state. In the summer of 2023, registered Democrats outnumbered Republicans by 480,000 in Pennsylvania, but by late October, that number had shrunk to 445,000, and the trend has continued. According to data from the Pennsylvania Department of State, that's the agency that tracks these numbers, the Democratic advantage in registered voters has gone from over 600,000 to only 390,000. That's a $210,000 difference. Not dollars, but voters. And that's enough voters to make Biden campaign and other Democrats worry that Pennsylvania will not be part of the blue wall they had in the Midwest in 2020. In western Pennsylvania, where I grew up, energy has always been a key part of the economy. It was coal mines where my paternal grandfather worked, and oil, which was first drilled in the United States in Titusville, PA. In recent years, fracking has become a major source of new oil and gas in the state. Of course, the environmentalists, primarily white, college-educated people, have strongly pushed back on allowing this practice. Biden's waffled on this issue, but has issued executive orders to ban drilling on public lands as well as fracking. And this has a direct impact on the working class voters in rural Pennsylvania. Some of these same trends can be found in states like Michigan and Wisconsin. Once again, the Democratic strongholds have been in the urban areas of the state, while the Republicans have been making gains in the more rural parts of the states. But what will happen if these three key states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, if the minority voters in Milwaukee, Kenosha, Detroit, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia don't turn out in the numbers the Democrats need? It could spell disaster for Biden and down-ballot Democrats. Pennsylvania has 19 electoral votes. Michigan has 15 and Wisconsin another 10. That's a total of 44 key electoral votes. It would deliver the presidency to Donald Trump. And should Trump continue to lead in states like Nevada, Georgia, and Arizona, then the election could turn into a rout. And the reason for some of these former reliable Democratic votes is becoming very openly obvious. They don't like the policies of the Biden administration. They don't like being told they cannot drive their Ford, Dodge, and GM trucks. They don't like being told they cannot use pronouns they don't want to use. And they don't like some young college kid telling them what to do and smirking them as he does it. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.